everyone, and welcome to the OklaRoots YouTube channel. In today's tutorial, we're going over the last block for the OklaRoots block party for 2020. Now this block is our month 10 block, and it's our December block, and it's just a fun, quick sew. It's a very traditional block. A lot of times you'll see this referred to as a sawtooth block. I switched up the middle just a little bit, but instead of one big square in the middle, we're gonna do 4 smaller squares. It's a beautiful December winter feeling block. You can really switch up what kind of fabrics you use here, and the design will totally change. So here's one version I made already. And then here's the other version I made when testing out the pattern. And I just, I love, see how I switched the contrast? Like the white here is the star, but on this one, the purple is the star. I love how that switches it up based on what fabric you're using. So I cannot believe we're almost done with 2020. I can't believe we're almost done with this block party. We just have a couple more months to go. I will actually be participating in a 2021 quilt along that's gonna start right when this block party is over. So if you're interested in more information on that, wait till the end of the video and I'll give you all the details. So if you're new to the channel, please consider clicking subscribe down below. If at any point you like this video, please give it a like. Any questions, comments, anything at all you want to say, leave them down in the comment section of this video. There's no timestamps today because this is a very quick, very simple block. I think this is a perfect block for the holiday season. You don't have a whole lot of time to create a really, interesting and complicated quilt block, but this is just enough to where it looks very unique, very beautiful, but it comes together very, very quickly. All right, let's get started. So I'm using 6 different colors in today's block. I'm using this white for the star part of the triangle, and then this blue for kind of the background outer rim. I'm then gonna use scraps from these 4 fabrics for the center design. As always, I'll be using my 10.5-inch ruler to square up the block in the end. I have a healthy supply of pins here. I like working with pins with quilt blocks. I have my 6-inch by 12-inch ruler, which is going to help you cut out the pattern pieces if you don't want to use the templates. A rotary cutter is also going to be helpful for this. My needles of choice are Microtech 7010. I'm using 50 weight Aurifil. And then I have my 3 pattern pieces right here. If you don't want to cut out the pattern pieces and print them out and all that, you can just cut these out with squares using your rotary cutter and a ruler, and I will have measurements for all of that in the pattern. So as you can see, this block is just made up of 3 different shapes. From color 1, you're going to want 4 units of piece B. Now these are these big triangles that go around the outer rim of the block. And then you're also going to want 4 pieces from piece A. Now these are just the 4 corners that go around the edges. From color 2, you're going to want 8 pieces from piece C. Now these are the smaller triangles that are just going to kind of hug and give that star effect. And then for the center, I just used 4 pieces of random scraps using template A. Now, although I do give you templates here, you don't need to print these out. I also have an alternative with the measurements, so just check the pattern and the measurements for all of this will be in there. For example, for piece C, instead of cutting 8 piece C triangles, you can cut 4 squares and then just cut them in half along the diagonal. Same thing using piece B. So this is a very easy block to put together if all you have is a ruler and a rotary cutter. So the first thing I like to do is just lay out my block. Remember, these larger triangles point in towards the center of the block. However, if you want to switch this up and have them point away from the block, that would also be a really unique design. As always, I encourage you to make this block your own by changing whatever you'd like. So you can see these smaller triangles just hug around the point of the larger triangle. And then our outer corners will just go around just like this. So it's a very simple block to put together. So to get started, let's work on building our rectangular triangle units and then putting together our center of the block. So I like to just spread it all out a little bit. Take one of your PC units and along the bottom long edge, line it up along the side long edge of your piece B unit, and then just lay them right side together. If you use the template or if you use the SVG file, you should see that they have little notches. This helps you line up those corners perfectly. I'm just using pins to pin this in place. Let's go ahead and repeat this for the other 3 large triangles. So once you have one piece C unit pinned to each piece B unit, you can just move those to the side for a moment. And now figure out your arrangement for the center of your block, and then just take 2 of your piece A's and just lay them right sides together and pin along one edge. Do the same with your other 2 piece A units. So now let's take our 4 triangular units and our 2 center units and stitch along the pinned edges at a scant 1/4 inch seam allowance. once you have these stitched together, now we're just going to press the seams. I like to press the seams behind the darker fabric, so I lay out all my pieces with the wrong side of the darker fabric facing up, and then I'll just press on the back of the seams once real quick, and then I'll just push this up with my fingers and give it a gentle finger press to make sure the seam goes behind the darker fabric, and then press the front with my iron. So press the seams on all of your units. And then once I have them all pressed from the front, I just flip them over and give them a quick press on the back as well to help really push that seam down. Now grab your remaining C units and just attach those the same way but to the opposite edge of your B triangle, right sides together. And then just pin along that long edge between them. Do this for all 4 of your larger triangles. And now let's combine the center unit here. So just lay your center columns right sides together and line them up along that middle seam. I like to make sure my seams here are either overlapping one another or just meeting each other perfectly. And then just pin along that connecting edge. Now let's take these 5 units to the sewing machine and sew along each pinned edge at a scant 1/4 inch seam allowance. Once again, for these triangle units, I'm going to press the seam behind the darker fabric. So that's behind that middle triangle. So I'm just going to press the back and then finger press it open and then press from the front. I'm not using steam and I'm being very gentle with the iron to make sure I don't stretch out the fabric. Since we have a lot of bias seams here, it's easy to stretch this out. And then I'll just give it a quick press on the back as well. Go ahead and repeat that with your other 2 triangles. And then for your center unit, just pick whichever side you want to press the seam behind and press it open nice and gently. So before we move on to the next step, I like to clean up these little triangle units. This should measure 3 inches by 5.5 inches. If it's a little bit smaller than that, that means you need to work on your scant 1/4 inch seam allowance. Your seam allowance is just a little bit too big. If it's a little bit bigger, then you can just trim it down so that it cleans it up to 3 inches by 5.5 inches. So I just use my ruler and my rotary cutter and just clean it up a little bit. So some of my blocks are a little bit shorter than 5.5 inches long, and that's okay. It doesn't have to be perfect, but that does mean that my seam right here is more of a 1/4 inch seam allowance and not so much a scant 1/4 inch seam allowance. I need to make my seam a little bit smaller. All right, so once I have that all cleaned up, I just like to relay out my block. So once again, remember I'm having these bigger triangles pointed towards the center. But let's see what it looks like with them pointed away. I just want to see what that looks like. I haven't even played with that idea. So here's that. And then if we did the corners, I think that's really cool. So that's another really, really great look. So do whatever you want here. I'm going to stick with the pattern and have the triangles pointed towards the center because that gives it more of a star look. But if you just flip them around, now you have more of like a boxed kind of geometric look, which is really cool. All right, so now that we have this all together, we're just going to separate this into 3 columns. So I'll just move each column on its own. All right, so starting at this right column, I'm going to take this upper square and lay it right side down along its matching edge with that middle triangle. And I'm just going to pin these together. And I'm actually going to also pin the bottom square as well. Since this is a bigger piece, I can attach both of these without either one getting in the way. So I'll pin that one to the edge. And now I'm going to do the same thing with the center. I'm just going to flip this so that it's right side down, match it up along the edge, and pin together. I'll also pin the bottom unit to the bottom of that center square. And then on this left column, I will just attach those squares to the ends of my little rectangular, triangular shape. And I'll attach the bottom as well. Now I'm going to take these 3 units to the sewing machine and stitch along all 6 pinned edges at a scant 1/4 inch seam allowance. have these stitched together, we can just press this open. I like to press the center unit with the seam behind those center squares. I find it just gets less bulky that way. So I'm just gonna press one side and then push this up. There we go. And then I'll press from the front as well. I'm gonna do the same thing on the bottom, just keeping the seam behind that center block, and then press it from the back as well to try to really hold those seams down. And go ahead and put this to the side. Now for these side blocks, I like to press the seam behind the square. It's just easier. There's not as much bulk there, so it's just really easy to press it along that flat square. So press all 4 of your squares, and then make sure you also press the back of the seams as well. All right, let's lay our block back out. Isn't that sweet? Now all we have to do is attach these columns to the center. So I'm just gonna start on the right side and then fold it right sides together. And I'm gonna match up, not the middle seam, but these side seams right here, and pin in place. And if you pressed your seams like I just did, you should see that they kind of hug each other in opposite directions. So that should help you line it all up really nicely. Now, since we're here, we can just go ahead and pin on the left column as well. So I'm just gonna fold this down right sides together. And once again, match up those side seams, and they should just nest into each other nice and easily. Okay, now we can take this to the sewing machine and just sew along these 2 pinned edges at a scant 1/4 inch seam allowance, and then you're done with your block. Now once you have those sewn in place, just press whichever side is easier. So I'm going to press from the back in the middle. I'm just going to have the seams go along that middle square again, just like I did on the top and bottoms. So press it once and then open it up. Finger press the seam down. Try to get it nice and smooth. Then I'll just rotate this, flip it over, and do the same thing. I'll press from the back, flip it up, and press this down so it's nice and smooth. Now I'm going to flip the unit over, and I'm just going to lightly spray the back with some Best Press, just a couple spritzes. And then I'll press all the seams on the back. And that Best Press is a starch, so it's going to help set those seams down so they're nice and stiff and this block doesn't kind of shrivel up on us. All right, I'm gonna flip it over and then just give it one more press from the front just to get it nice and smooth and flat. Aren't those colors just beautiful? I love this block. This is a fun one. This is another one of those blocks you could just make a whole bunch of and make an entire quilt out of it. This is also a block pattern that I would highly suggest if you enjoy making it, make a few extra. February has the most challenging block, and I'm encouraging you to do whatever design you want for that month. Now I'm gonna grab my 10.5 inch ruler and just clean up the edges if I need to. My block is a little on the smaller side, so it doesn't look like I have anything to cut off, and that's perfectly fine. And there you go, now your block is done. So isn't this just such a fun, quick, easy block to put together? Like I said, if you enjoyed making this block, make a few extra, because we do have some more challenging ones coming on the very last month of the block party. I'm really excited to see your versions. I'm excited to see how you change the coloring. I'm excited to see how you switch around some of these blocks. You guys get so creative with these quilt blocks. It makes me so happy to see. So I hope you like this wintry, December-y block. So the last block of this block party is going to come out in February of 2021, and then I'm going to show you how to put it all together. So we'll walk through finishing the quilt together. However, if you're interested in continuing on with your quilt journey, I will be partnering with Cotton Cuts on their Spring 2021 Sparkle and Shine Mystery Quilt Along. This is actually going to start in February, so it's right after we finish up our OklaRoots block party. Every month for 9 months, they're gonna send you pre-cut fabric pieces, and all you have to do is sew it together. So they're gonna send you the fabric pieces already cut out, they're gonna send you the block pattern or the pattern that you're gonna be using for that month, and you're just gonna put it together. I will be filming videos showing you how to put together that month's block or piece of the quilt. It's not necessarily a block, but it's a piece of the quilt. And then in the end, on month 10, they're gonna show us how to put it all together. What I think is so cool about that is that you don't have to cut out any of the pattern pieces. You don't have to pick the fabric. You don't have to cut anything out. They're going to send it all to you. Now, if you go to their website, they have a lot of different colorways. So you do have to pick which colorway you want, but then they will do the rest of the work for you. So if you want to make a quilt, but you're short on time, or if you're brand new to quilting, this is a perfect project for you. So if you're interested, I'll have links for their shop down in the description of this video. I also have a coupon code for you that's going to get you a free gift with your first month's clue. So I'm so excited to get started on that. Thank you so much for sewing along with me today. I hope you're having a great day. I hope you have a fantastic rest of the week. Get out there and make something. Bye.